All right, we are here with Olivia Landau. Welcome to Seeing Other People. I am so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to hear about the clear cut. I'm so excited to hear about your love story with Kyle. And there are so many listener questions that have been sent in over the last month, specifically surrounding the topic of like proposals and engagements. And so you are literally the perfect person to be here and help answer those. So I cannot wait to get into it.
Awesome. Well, I'm ready.
Let's do it. So take me back. Obviously, would love to hear like how you ended up starting the clear cut. It has completely blown up. Congratulations on all of these success. You're literally everywhere on social media in the absolute best way ever. How did this happen?
So it happened really organically. I never set out to like start a company or be an entrepreneur, but I grew up in a family that was in the diamond business. So I'm fourth generation in the diamond industry, and my parents actually had their own antique jewelry business. So I grew up around it, but I personally never thought I would get into it myself. But after college, I graduated and was kind of lost and didn't know what my career path was going to be. So I wanted to extend schooling a bit more. And I heard about GIA, which is the Gemological Institute of America, through my parents and being around the industry. So I decided to take a 6-month program to become a graduate gemologist, which is basically an expert in diamonds and colored stones. To my surprise, I fell in love with diamonds and gemstones, and it was in my blood all along. And I decided this is where I wanted my career to be. I also met my now husband and co-founder, Kyle, while I was at GIA. But after graduating, I started my career on Tiffany on the engagement floor. And that's where I really fell in love with bridal jewelry, diamonds, engagement rings specifically. But I wanted to get more hands-on. So then I transitioned to work at a large wholesale company, a diamond wholesale company here in New York. And at that same time, Kyle went to business school, and a lot of his friends were at that age that they wanted to get engaged, and they knew he had ties to the industry. So they would say, hey, do you know a guy that can get me a good deal on a ring? And since I was working in wholesale, I was like the go-to guy for everyone in his business school class. So I started educating people, helping them pick out their diamonds, create custom rings. And that's what led me to start The Clear Cut in 2016 as just a blog. It was an educational blog. I didn't think anyone would really read it. It was just kind of for our friends to know the do's and don'ts before coming to work with me. And then from that, I started posting designs on Instagram. And that's where more people started to know about me, following the account, asking if I could help create their custom rings. And it kind of happened really organically. And I was, selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of engagement rings through Instagram DMs on my lunch break. And Kyle was graduating from business school, and he was like, hey, I think you have like a business on your hands. Like there must be a white space in the market. So we decided to quit our jobs and start The Clear Cut full time. And we grew it from just focusing on bespoke diamond engagement rings, which is still our bread and butter, but now a whole line of fine jewelry that's all made here in New York.
That is all so incredible. And it's crazy like how organically it happened, like every step of the way. And it kind of like, it's not that you fell into it because it is like what you were trained to do and what you were doing, but this like word of mouth, like, how do I do this? Like, where do I go? What should it look like? What should I be looking for? Like people just trusted you and came to you, and it just happened. And it's so funny that you were on that floor at Tiffany, because I've been with multiple friends for their kind of like first stop and like looking for an engagement ring. And when I say no knock to Tiffany, but like every single person that has helped us, like I would have done anything to have someone like you there who like I feel like I just really could connect with and like really gets it and has recently gone through it. Oh my God, the rain just hit me uptown. Holy shit. Guys, we're in the middle of a bomb cyclone right now. This is wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it just left my area and went to your area.
And came uptown a little bit. That's hilarious. What was that like working? I mean, this whole time, not necessarily just at Tiffany, but I feel like it's such an exciting time for people, but it's also like they're also coming in with like nerves and so many questions. Like, what is that like from your side of things?
I think for me, I we are like working with people during like some of the biggest moments in their life, some of the happiest times, but also some of the most stressful times. And also, this is probably one of the biggest financial purchases and commitments they're making in their life. So, it's all about leading with that sensitivity, putting our customer first, always being education focused. So from the beginning, we were the clear cut. We were an educational blog. Now we make a lot of educational videos on social media, and that's where we always wanted to lead. The diamond industry has always been kind of opaque, has had, um, a reputation for being like a little bit sketchy, and that's something that I wanted to change completely. I want to put all the information out there, educate my customer to a point where they feel so empowered by the time that they come to make the purchase that they're comfortable and they're really, confident in whatever decision that they make.
Totally. And I love that. And I think that's so important because I'm going through this period now where all my friends are starting to either get engaged or get married and even like having conversations about having kids. And it's just so interesting to see like everybody feels like they're going in blind and they're like, where do I begin? Like, what am I looking for? How do we even have these conversations about like, what does she want? Like, what do I want? How do I tell him? And it's definitely like equally nerve wracking and exciting. So it's great that, you have been such a resource to people. I want to talk a little bit about you and Kyle. So you guys met at GIA, but like, how did you meet? How did this happen?
So it's actually a really funny story. So I was there doing my GG program, which was 6 months, and he was in a different class. So he had founded at the time a fair trade diamond mining company in Sierra Leone, and his investors sent him to New York to learn more about diamonds. So he was in a 6-week program for just diamonds. So we were in different classes, but it's a really small school, and we had the same break periods. So I would see him on like our lunch breaks, like the 15-minute breaks, whatever. And he caught my eye, and I could tell that he was looking at me too, but he was never coming over to talk to me. So I was like, what is this? What's going on? And it was kind of frustrating. And every day after school, I would take the F train downtown, and I'd see him across the platform taking it uptown. And one day, I don't know what happened. I was behind him leaving class, and I just decided to follow him onto his subway. So I kind of like a little bit. But then I got onto the train, and he was like, oh, like I recognize you from school. And I was like, oh yeah, I already did your class. I'm so good at diamonds. Like I can always like tutor you or whatever. And it was kind of funny because he was like, what stop are you getting off at? And I had no idea like where this train even went. So I was like, oh, this is my stop, like bye. And then after that, we started like doing our homework and stuff after school together. And then we started dating, and we were long distance for a year. And then after the Ebola epidemic, he moved in with me, and the rest is history.
I love that so much. I love how you went for it. I love how it was a little like creative in your approach, but it worked.
I've never done that to anyone ever before. Like I'm usually the person that waits to like have someone approach me, but I was just like so frustrated, and I was like, whatever, like I'm just going to shoot my shot.
That's incredible. And guys, ladies, take notes. Like you're allowed to go shoot your shot, and look where Olivia and Kyle are now. That is amazing. At what point did you two decide to go into business together? And did you have hesitations around that? Obviously, like don't shit where you eat is such a common saying. And I get asked all the time about like, should I like date my work crush? Should I like, what about like going into business with somebody who you have a crush on? And like, I have done it too, and it has not gone well for me. So I'm curious how you guys started that off and really created a foundation that worked both like personally and in a business sense.
I had so much hesitation, and I never ever thought that I would get into business with someone that I was dating, especially because my parents went into business together, and that's probably the reason why they're divorced right now. So they were like, never go to business with your partner. So at the time, we weren't even engaged, we weren't married, we were just dating. And it was really Kyle's idea. He was like, I think it'd be perfect. Like, I have the business skills, you have like the product skills. We should do it. And I remember both of our parents being like, do not do this. Like, this is a terrible decision. Like, please don't do it. And we decided obviously to just go for it. And it's kind of a bigger commitment than even getting married to each other, because like we were like, by the time we were getting engaged, it was just like, we already have a business together. Like this isn't even a big deal. But it was weird when we like started an engagement ring company and we weren't engaged. So that was like a weird period of time. But it works out. And I think it works out because we have such different skill sets, and we also have so much respect for one another and like our appropriate lanes. Like I know when to go to him for things, and like he knows what I'm good at. And like it is a very good balance. I think if we both had similar skill sets and we'd be stepping on each other's toes and had different opinions about things, then I could see us like fighting a lot more.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think that's also what makes you guys such great partners in your relationship, is like you complement each other. And the respect thing is obviously like the most important of all, but everybody brings something like different to a relationship. And, sometimes people are like, oh, this person's too different. Like I want to date like me in guy form. And that might not necessarily be a good idea. Like you want to date somebody who is going to bring new ideas, who is going to like introduce you to things, but also be excited to do the things that you like too.
Exactly. Like we have so many similarities and so many things in common that we like, but we do have like, I love learning from him, and I think he likes learning from me too. I don't know, but we I think it is totally the respect, and also like we have like our designated lanes.
Totally. Knowing now that you guys started this engagement ring business without being engaged, what was your proposal story? How did your engagement come to be? And was that ever like awkward or uncomfortable? Like, was one of you ready before the other one was? Like, I feel like it's just a weird dynamic to have when you're also in this like long-term intense relationship.
Totally. I mean, our proposal story is very unusual. We were dating already for 6 years at the time, and I was definitely ready before he was. Everywhere we'd go at one point, I was like, wouldn't this be a great place for you to propose to me? Like, just joking, but like not joking. I always thought I would design my own ring, but the story behind my ring is that it's actually, we had just started the business. So we were like, didn't have any money. We were, in that grind. And so I was like, okay, this isn't happening for like another year or two for sure. But this is a ring that was in my mom's inventory. So they were an antique, she's an antique jewelry dealer. This is an Art Deco ring. And I saw it when I was 8 years old. And I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this ring. I love it. Can this be my engagement ring? And my mom was like, no, your husband has to get you your engagement ring. This isn't your engagement ring. So I kind of forgot about it. But I guess when Kyle went to ask for permission, she was like, don't worry, I have the ring for you. Like I saved it. So it was really sweet. But how it came about was and I'll be careful with what I say. So we were graduating from Techstars, which was an accelerator. That was the first 3 months of when we launched our business. And I guess a producer from a business reality TV show had seen us in an article about Techstars or something. So they reached out to us, and it was kind of like a dream. Like this was something I had always manifested, like I wanted to do. And they reached out to us and was like, hey, do you want to like fly to LA to pitch your business on this show? And I was like, amazing, I would love this. And I told Kyle, I was like, wouldn't it be great if you proposed to me while we were filming? But I was saying this about everything all the time. So he was like, I would never do that. So whatever, I was super nervous. We like fly to LA. I was like very focused on like this show and filming it. And we were there. And during filming, he gets on one knee. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And he was like, I don't even think he asked me if I wanted to marry him. I don't think he said anything. I know he dropped the ring and the box rolled across the ground and he had to like crawl and get it back. But I was like, I blacked out and I was like hysterically crying. And it was like the best day ever. But we had signed a contract saying we couldn't say anything that happened while we were filming. So we went back to New York. I put the ring in a safe, and we were secretly engaged for 10 months.
Shut up.
Yes. Waiting for the episode to come live, because we had been told it was going to be the season finale. It was going to launch at this point. I was planning a wedding in secret, doing everything in secret. And then I get a call like a week before it's supposed to go live saying they cut your episode. It's not going live. It'll never see the light of day. And I was like, but
No.
how am I supposed to tell people I'm engaged? All of a sudden, I'm getting married in 2 months in Italy. I haven't told anyone. I haven't sent out invites, nothing. So I was literally on 8th Avenue. I remember getting this call. I was standing in front of like a Banana Republic, hysterically crying. I was like a psycho person, like on the street being like, why me? My life is over. It was really embarrassing. So it was probably one of the best and worst experiences ever. But then we were like, okay, whatever. We got to roll the punches. I just like shot a video being like, hey guys, I'm engaged. I'm getting married in 2 months. Like, woo. And then like sent out invites, and we got married in Italy in June, and that was like April. And yeah.
Holy shit.
I have no photos. Like I have like
Yeah, like, did you ever get the content or no?
The footage does not belong to us. We have no photos. I have like a blurry photo that like one of the producers took. They felt bad for me, but that was it.
Did they give you a reason why they cut it?
No, I mean, it's like television, right? Like they can like, edit and cut whatever. They don't really care.
Oh my God.
It was Kyle's fault for like choosing that moment to make such a big decision.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, are we real engaged or are we like TV engaged? Like, what are we, you know?
Yeah. Holy shit. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I feel like of all people to like, I mean, it is an amazing story, but it's like,
I know I should have but that's how the world works, I guess. Right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you got engaged, you got married, and holy shit, that is wild. Also, so incredible that your mom kept that ring. That is so special and amazing. And I don't even think I knew what an engagement ring was when I was 8, but I also didn't grow up in a family of diamond.
It did have like 2 extra diamonds on the side that I took off and just made a plain band. So it has like my touch on it, but I kept like all the stuff in the center the same. So it's like a combo of like me and her, which I think is nice.
That is amazing. Okay. I want to get into the process of getting an engagement ring, picking that out. So I have a few listener questions, and I feel like one is perfect to kick it off. So this listener sent in and said, my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years now. We talk about the future, and I know she's who I want to spend my life with, but we haven't discussed a timeline. How do I know when it's time to pop the question? And how do I even go about the process of getting a ring and planning a proposal?
That's a good question. I mean, I think with every relationship, it's different. Like we waited 6 years, but I have some friends that like dated for a year or less and they felt ready. I think whenever the time comes, more couples are working together as a team, even in the preliminary stages. I mean, we're working with a lot of couples that do the whole thing start to finish. But in the beginning, I think it's like important to either be like, hey, like, let's like go to Tiffany or a store and like just try on some rings for like one day in the distant future to see what you might like. Or maybe you should go with like some of your friends to like try things on just to see for like, so they'll know when the time is right. Things like that to like kick it off and start. And that doesn't really mean that you have to get a ring right then and there, but it's just a good way to signal like we may be thinking about heading to that point in our relationship. And I think it's you're in a relationship with someone else. It's all about communication. And I think you kind of know when you're at that stage because you're like kind of talking about getting more serious and like talking about the future. And then, you know, if you do go and try things on together, maybe you want to like do the process together. Like it depends on the person. Some people feel strongly about like the specific diamond they're getting, like being part of like the ring design. And some people are like a little more chill and like, these are my guidelines, get whatever you want. But I think doing research, number one, like looking at the clear cut in our educational content, but also
I've learned so much from just watching your videos. So thank you.
Of course, doing that online research, doing like the real world research. And then once you have a good idea of, you know, at least shape, budget of what you want to spend, things that are important that you want to prioritize, things that you are okay compromising on, then you can work with someone like us where we basically take all that information and we hand pick a selection of diamonds that our gemologists have pre-screened for you. We narrow it down and work really closely together to pick the perfect one and then create a custom ring specifically for you so you're not getting just something out of a box.
When people go to Tiffany and like ask to see rings, do they know that it's 99.9% likely that this person is not actually planning on getting a ring from Tiffany?
I mean, when I was there, it was it's really cutthroat. Like they'll be like, oh, if it's just like a group of girls coming, like salespeople will like run away and like try to avoid you because they know like it's not leading to a sale at that moment. Or if like it's couples, then like they'll run up to the couple and be like, hey, how can I help you? So I think, yes, like that it is like a try on place, but obviously everyone's trying to like convert you from like just trying on to like being like a customer, but it's really
Yeah.
overpriced. So just, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I've always wondered the few times I've gone. I'm like, what are they thinking right now? And it is interesting. Like I went, but 3 times I went with one other person, and the first time it was like, oh my gosh, like let's sit you down, let's like give you all like what can we get you to drink, like. And then the other 2 times it was like we had to stand there for 20 minutes, like trying to make eye contact with salespeople, like hoping that they would help us out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Next question I have. I just got engaged without having any hint that a proposal was coming. I'm fully ready for my future with my fiance, and I'm so glad that he surprised me and asked me to marry him. This sounds horrible, but I really hate the engagement ring that he picked out. It's not something I ever would have chosen for myself. Is there any world in which I should tell him, or should I suck it up, deal with it, and wear it every day even though I hate it, because I know it was obviously expensive and meaningful, and I don't want to hurt his feelings? Please help.
So I don't think that you should just hold it in and wear it every day and hate it. But I do think like it is a very delicate subject. So I would approach it, every relationship, like honesty is the best policy. But I would say like, hey, like I love it and it's so special, but like I'd love to put like my touch on it to make it like a little bit more me, or go with my other jewelry. If you like the diamond, for instance, like I would always suggest like maybe resetting it into a style that you would like more. That's like the easiest way of approaching it. If you hate the diamond, then it's a little bit more challenging, but I would probably just see what the options are, and like how, if you're willing to like wear it every day as is, then probably like small changes are going to make a huge difference for you.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what I would do in that situation. Because like you definitely, I mean, you want to be sensitive, and obviously this person's like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I understand that this was expensive and meaningful, but it's also really tough. I mean, I've seen like, even just with my friends, like some are more self-conscious of their rings than others. If they'll see like someone gets engaged and they're like flaunting their giant diamond, and they're like, oh, like mine's a literal baby compared to that person's. Like it is such a sensitive subject for everybody involved.
It's so sensitive, but I feel like if he wants you to be happy at the end of the day, and so if like doing a small change to the ring and making it a little bit more you is going to make you, 10 times happier, then I think, it should be an easy answer.
Totally. Question that I have, and this is something that I've thought about a lot just as I've seen, the people in my world start to get engaged and married. Do you think, or how much do you think, if you think social media has impacted proposals and ring shopping? Obviously ring shopping, yes, but like proposals, and how involved both people in the couple are with the process? Because I feel like it's such a, it's like, well, that has to be that moment that's on camera that has been planned forever, and that party has to happen later, or like there has to be a surprise dinner. Like I feel like it's changed so much, where like my parents, when they got engaged, my dad didn't even have a ring. He handed her a card that said like, happy anniversary or happy new year. I hope to be here for the next 50 or something like that, and asked her to marry him. And then they went and found a ring together.
Yeah, I feel like even since I started working with couples, like things have changed so much. Like social media has made it so accessible for anyone to like see different types of rings and like be aware of like, now, even if like your local jewelry store doesn't have like an elongated antique cushion cut on like a thin gold band with a hidden halo, like that's out there, and it exists, and that's what you want. So you
Right.
aren't I think before you were kind of like limited to what was in like your neighborhood or what was accessible to you physically, and now with social media and companies like ours, you kind of have unlimited possibilities with what you can create, and you're more exposed to different things. Also, we do clear cut couples, which are like stories, proposal stories of like some of our couples. And from when we first started, we'd get like selfies like in a bedroom, like, and it was dark and terrible photos. Now every single person has like a professional, perfect, like out of a magazine photo, and it's like really important for them. And
Yeah.
I think just culture of it has changed because like you want, this is such a big moment, you want it like commemorated, and definitely we put our entire lives online. Like for such a big moment, you want it to be as perfect as possible, or like picture perfect as possible.
Yeah, I've photographed a few proposals, and the planning behind it, it's like either going, like physically going to the location at the specific time to make sure the lighting is right and mapping out where the person's going to walk from and to, or even like one person going, sending videos, like drawing the map of like, here's where you're going to be, like here, you're going to get here like 30 minutes before to make sure the area is clear. Like it has to be this exact spot. Like it is so wild when I feel like even 5-10 years ago, it was just like, okay, get on one knee and propose and like, yay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also like I think back in the day, or not even back in the day, like 5 years ago and before that, at least in like a heterosexual relationship, like a man would just go into a store, buy a ring, and then you would just be happy with whatever you got. And now that's like so not the case. Like I think now like women have a lot of them actually financially contribute to the ring. They have a lot more say. It's more of a kind of like more of a group decision. It's not like, oh, I'm the man, I'm just gonna like get this ring and you'll be happy with whatever you get. Now it's like definitely women driving the purchase and like what is happening more than anyone else. And she's the one wearing it, so it makes sense.
That's true. I think it's like partially a blessing and partially a curse, because it's amazing that, like you said, like the woman is the one wearing it. Like she gets to have a say and it can be exactly what she wants. But I've seen my friends go through it where it's like, yeah, we're talking about our wedding and we're talking about our engagement ring and planning it out before there's a proposal. So now I feel like it's not a surprise when I want there to be a surprise, but I do like that I get to pick it out because like he might have no idea what I want, but now I know that it's coming and it feels a little less special because of that. Like it's just such an interesting dynamic that like I wonder what it's going to be like in even like 5 and 10 years from now. Like how much more involved could somebody possibly get?
I think if you are really you really want that surprise moment, but you still want to be involved, the best way to do it is with a lot of our clients do it like really have very like specific guidelines of what is important to you and what are like non-negotiables in the ring, and just like pass that along to your partner or to like a trusted friend,
Friend.
and then they'll make sure that it's done. But that means like you can't be so in control of every single decision. You have to just give them like some guidelines. So I think that's probably the best way to be involved without like knowing every single detail.
Yeah, I've been the trusted friend, and being the trusted friend is very fun, but it's also very nerve wracking. Like I'm like changing names in my phone and completely like hiding things. Oh my God. Actually, one of my best friend, I ended up officiating her wedding, but I also helped like plan the proposal, photograph the proposal, and plan like the engagement party that night. But I was with her the entire day before. We like accidentally planned to hang the day before, and the entire day she was like having a panic attack about the fact that he hadn't proposed yet. And she's like, please tell me, like, has he reached out to you? Like, I don't understand. Like, I thought it would have happened by now. And meanwhile, I have him texting me. I have her parents texting and calling me. At one point, I literally had to go to the bathroom to take a phone call with her mom. And it was so funny. And she actually like said to me that day, she was like, can we make today like a yes day and just say yes to like anything that comes our way and like do different activities? I'm just like, you're literally like referring to it as a yes day when like that's like what you're going to be saying. So it was just really funny to like have all of that knowledge and have to put on the biggest poker face of my life.
Story of my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like actually like not a good liar, and I'm really bad at keeping secrets.
Same.
But like I've had to keep so many secrets for so long that I'm like really good at it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
from him, because like all my
It's like
friends
a
are like,
muscle, you gotta flex.
yeah, because I've done like basically all my close friends rings, and they're always like, has he reached out yet? And I'm like, no, I have no idea what's going
Nope.
on.
Like, don't know why. Maybe he went somewhere else. Okay, next question. Hi, Alana. I'm hoping you can help me with a situation I'm in. I've been with my boyfriend for 2.5 years. We're in our late 20s, and we've had many conversations about starting a family and being in it for the long haul, etc. I've been feeling really anxious because all my friends are getting engaged and married and starting to have babies. I want to be doing all of that too, and it seems like he does. But anytime I bring up a conversation about getting engaged, he tries to change the topic. It makes me even more anxious that he won't talk about it because it feels like maybe he's not ready, but everything else about our relationship shows me that he is. How do I get us on the same page without being pushy? I keep getting myself disappointed every time we have a nice trip or a nice date night and he doesn't propose. I know it's not fair for me to put this pressure on him, but it's also not fair for me to feel this way all the time.
How old are they? Early 20s?
Late 20s.
Okay. I was like, early 20s
together for late 20s together for 2.5 years.
I mean, I think like 2.5 years, like it's not like there shouldn't be so much pressure. I think like maybe after like year 3.5, like I don't know. I waited 6 years, so like don't listen to me. But I think like the more pressure you put on it, like the less like fun it's gonna be, or like the less like your partner is gonna like want to take charge and do it. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's tough because I think there's a possible world in which like he is there and is planning it, just being incredibly secretive and wants to surprise you. I also think there's a world in which, like I've seen my friends in the happiest relationships get so overhyped and overthink it so much where like it is coming, like it is part of the plan, it is coming. They're just like, for some reason, feeling like, well, why hasn't it happened yet? Or like it's this ticking time bomb where if it doesn't happen, like maybe they don't love me that much. Like I think it's something where everybody has like a different fake timeline in their head. Like maybe you came into the relationship thinking, okay, after like I want to date somebody for 2 years and then get engaged and then a year later get married and then have kids 2 years later. And maybe they came into the relationship thinking like, yeah, like this is my person and I'm super excited and I want to like date for 4 years and then get engaged and married and start the rest of our lives together. And I think if you haven't had that discussion about like when you want things to happen, then it's really hard to assume like, well, they're on the same page as me or they're not. And I think you could just be like, it's very likely that you're reading the same book and you're just a chapter ahead of him. And so I think it's important to just express that and say like, this is making me anxious and I don't want to be anxious and I love you and I am so happy with where we're at. I just want to know like what you're thinking in terms of like the next few years.
That's such great advice. And it's so true. Cause like I could have probably gotten engaged like 2 years into us dating, but Kyle was like, no, I want to get engaged once we've been through many different periods and challenges in our relationship. So there was one where we were long distance. Then there was one chapter where he was in business school. And then there was one chapter where we started our own business. So we had like a lot of like challenges and things that we overcame. And I guess for him, that was more important to do those things before we got engaged. But for me, I was like, I know this is it, like when I was 22. But I think it's important to know like where your partner is, like with their timeline.
Yeah. And I think just focusing on like everything in this relationship is amazing. I love this person and we will get there instead of like, when will we get there? Like it might mean something different to you than to them. And I think that's another thing. Like, I feel like as women, we're like, we put so much emphasis on like, well, when I get the ring, like when we're engaged, like that's when it's even more official. That's when we can start wedding planning. It's like to them, they might already feel like this is the love of my life. This is the person of my dreams. This is my future. And like, they're just not thinking of it the same way you are. So I think it is really important to just be open and come from a place of like, this is how I feel. And I want to know how you feel instead of like, I'm really anxious and upset and it's because you're not proposing and like blaming it because they might really be so innocent and unaware that it's causing you this much pain. And maybe if they knew that it was and they're already ready and they're already there, then they could just, you guys can start the process.
Totally.
Okay. My boyfriend and I are planning to get engaged soon. I know exactly what kind of ring I want, but it feels really obnoxious to tell him what insanely expensive diamond to get me. How can I politely guide him in the right direction without seeming needy or materialistic?
I mean, I would speak now or forever hold your peace. Just say what you want and aim for the best. And then you can see what compromises you can make depending on, what he feels comfortable with. But like, don't hold back on, I would send photos. I'd be like, this is the look I want. This is my dream ring. And then, kind of work together and see like what, makes sense, like budget wise, financial wise. But like, this is your ring forever. Like, you should definitely express what you want.
Yeah, I agree. I've had friends also, I know like they'll feel bad about like wanting a certain size or size range or clarity, et cetera, et cetera. But they also know that, well, this is like their one engagement ring forever and they want it to be exactly what they want. And it is definitely like an awkward conversation to have. But at the same time, it's like, you have to have life is about having the hard conversations. And if it's something that's important to you and you're going to be upset if it's not the way you want, you don't want to end up like the person who wrote in saying, I hate my engagement ring. What do I do?
And it's all about compromise, right? Like, if you have this ideal ring, like, and he has like X budget, where are areas that you really want to prioritize? And what are areas that you're okay compromising on a little bit to make it work? And that's like what we do every day with our clients. Like, okay, the most important thing is like the shape, the dimensions, and like the faceting pattern. I'm okay sacrificing on color and clarity to this certain extent and finding that balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's also like, I'm glad you called that out because there are so many different factors to it that impact budget. And there is a way to get to something that works for everyone with just like a tiny bit of compromise that probably won't be noticeable to the human eye anyway.
And that's what a relationship is, right? Like compromise.
Exactly. Do you have any favorite success stories or favorite proposal stories from clear-cut couples?
I mean, they're all they're all amazing and they're all great.
Yeah.
One maybe most recently was a couple months ago. I witnessed like my first clear cut couple proposal that wasn't my own. So, and that was the first one I helped kind of plan. It was one of Kyle's best friends from college, and we were on a road trip from Italy to Germany, and we stopped in Switzerland. And we'd been planning this for a while, and it was a complete surprise to her. But she had sent over a photo of a diamond that I had posted. And so he bought that, and we like kind of figured out what setting she wanted, made it for her. And we found like the perfect spot in this like town in Switzerland, blah, blah. And we were going there. And it was so funny because we like planned everything to a T, but there's certain things that are like out of your control. So we get there, it's pouring rain, like out of nowhere, like torrential downpour. We're supposed to have like a picnic outside. So it was like kind of weird to like figure out what to do. We're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like stop here to like look at the lake. And it was like so cloudy, you like couldn't see it. We drive up, it's pouring. And then the photographer who he hired was just waiting there, waving at us like, hey, you guys made it. And we're like, who is this lady?
Oh my
like,
God.
We know her. And so one of my friends got up and like talked to her and was like, it's a surprise, like go away. And then we're like, how do you know this lady? She was like, how do you know this lady? And he's like, oh, we went to college together. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I don't know what, and she was like, whatever, like ignored it. And then we get to like this little like hill, like overlooking the lake, which he's supposed to propose at. And the photographer's waiting there with a huge camera waving at us again. And I was like, and she's like, who is this lady? I'm like, I don't know.
Oh my God.
He like freaks out, goes to the bathroom to call like her family member to ask for permission, like right there. And we're like standing in the rain waiting for him. And he was like, what are you doing? But then he comes out, takes her to the spot. They can't see the lake, but they're like pointing at something else. The photographer starts snapping photos. So it's like giving it away. So I was like, you better get on one knee right now. And he did, and she was so surprised and it was so much fun. And we opened up a bottle of champagne in the rain and it was like really romantic. But I think that one was fun because I was just like involved with like the whole process and I witnessed it.
That is so wild. First of all, the photographer like waving and then doing it again, him asking for permission in the moment, the rain.
I think that photographer, like I think in Europe, like it's different. There's not like, I think she thought they were like already engaged and taking like engagement photos. I don't think she knew it was like a surprise. I don't know.
That is so funny. But I can't believe all of that happened and she was still so surprised. Like, yeah, that's so the best part of it. Yeah. God. Oh my God. I love proposal stories so much. And I think it's like for me, it's so cool that I think partially because of what I do, partially because I used to be a photographer, I've been involved in so many of my friends, and it is truly like the most special experience in the entire world. Like
to
there's
get that
nothing else like it.
reaction.
Yeah. And then also like having them, whether it's like a close friend or like a friend of a friend who I end up like photographing for, like either them seeing me after or just like having that comfort that it was like me there hiding and like being the one to like take the semi awkward post down on knee pictures. It's so funny. It's awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Olivia. This has been so incredible. Before we wrap up, I have one last question for you, and it's my favorite question to ask. And it is, what is the best piece of dating advice you've ever received?
Ooh, the best piece of dating advice I ever received. I think it might be like loving yourself first and the most before you can really love and accept someone else into your life. Because if you're not prioritizing yourself and your emotions and like your feelings, I don't think anyone else will either.
I completely agree with that. I think it's so wise and it's so important. And it's something where I've been in relationships in the past where I wasn't at that point where I loved myself and respected myself enough to know what I deserved. And those relationships ended up going horribly because I had literally no self-respect, and I didn't care to ask for more. I didn't care to, have my needs met because I only cared about their needs being met and put myself in the back burner. So I love that.
That happens a lot. And I think like you feel like you have to put the other person first to have them like love you and like you. But if you don't have self-respect, they're never going to respect you either.
Exactly. Olivia, thank you again so much. Where can everybody find you? Where can everybody learn more about the Clear Cut, learn more about the ring process, all of that?
So you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Clear Cut, and you can shop at theclearcut.co.
Amazing. And I will link all of that in the show notes and on social. Thank you again. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for listening. Please, please, please don't forget to send this to a friend who would love to hear it. Send it to the group chat. Send it to the guy you've been dating as a little hint of like, hey, check out this awesome episode. They said a lot of like really fun and insightful things. You never know. Post it on your story, tag Clear Cut, tag Seeing Other People. And don't forget to give a 5-star rating and review if you haven't yet. All right. Love you guys. I'll talk to you next time.